Namaste and welcome to all of you to today's session on Mahatma letters. We will continue with the study of chronological letter number 74, which is being taken by Brother C Krishna ji. And let us begin this session with the universal invocation. Namaste and welcome to all of you to today's session on Mahatma letters. We will continue with the study of chronological letter number 74, which is being taken by Brother C Krishna ji. And let us begin this session with the universal invocation. Namaste and welcome to all of you to today's session on Mahatma letters. O hidden life, vibrant in every atom, O hidden light, shining in every creature, O hidden love, embracing all in oneness, may each who feels himself as one with thee know he is also one with every other. So welcome to all of you once again. Brother C Krishna ji, as you know, he is the national lecturer and the executive council member of the Indian section. And we have completed 2 sessions of this chronological letter number 74. I request Sir to continue the part 3 of this letter.
Good evening, brothers. The number of pages which were left to be covered in that letter number 30, as per the book which I have, the Barker edition, were too big for continuing on that day and too small perhaps to conclude today. But still, we would do something very useful after the end of the study session. So we'll begin with what Master KH was talking about. He was talking about conceit. When we last considered what he was talking about conceit. Master KH says, who of us are completely free of this defect? Who of us are completely free of that defect, meaning conceit or pride, etc. Meaning all of us are some way or the other affected by conceit and pride. So actually he meant that to begin with, he addressed Mr. Hume, and that's one quality perhaps he didn't appreciate, or one negative quality which Master did not appreciate that was there with Mr. Hume. And then he covers it up saying, who of us are completely free of that defect? Conceit and pride. Saying that we are all affected by conceit and pride. Master KH says that Mr. Fern, the person who was the subject matter of this letter number 30, he can imagine and say what all he likes. He can imagine what all he likes to say, but you, meaning Evo Hume, should not be carried away by what he said, but what he says. And you are prejudiced in a way, and the fact that your prejudice is not known to you, nor you will admit the existence of prejudice in you. So this is something which, again, all of us perhaps are quite agree with this, because most of us, the qualities, good or bad, maybe we cannot talk about it ourselves. Somebody else perhaps can point out and say, this is something which is there. But in our meditation or self-introspection, one could perhaps arrive at whether we are prejudiced, whether we're open-minded, and things like that. So he says, Master KH says, you should not be carried away by what Mr. Fern is talking about. And also you should not be prejudiced. And more importantly, the fact that you're prejudiced is not known to you, meaning evo Hume, nor you, meaning Hume, would admit the existence of prejudice in him. So this is something which all of us have to take note of. I'll just give an example which I have seen personally. A person who is a retired judge who was in the Indian Section Council, and the president was wanting to find out who was the other person who voted against this particular resolution where a person's membership was about to be cancelled. And that particular judge, he came and openly admitted that I was that person. So that was something very, very courageous of him to say that I voted against your proposal. So that's something which we should be able to do it. And we need courage to admit that we have prejudice, courage to admit that we have certain negative qualities and try to work them out. Yes. Most of the times we too are not quite clear whether we are free of this prejudice. To prejudge of something which we are used to, because we know our understanding is the best understanding, so we prejudge the situation and believe that prejudice to be true. Master K.H. says, it is surpassingly strange, not surprisingly strange, surpassingly strange that you, Hume, is aware of or would admit prejudice in him. So he would not admit. Extremely, surpassingly means surpass means to pass something extremely competently, that you would not admit prejudice exists in me. Master K.H. says, you, meaning evo Hume, is giving credence means validation to Mr. Fern's statements that Master M has been humbugged and deceived and has fallen into the trap laid by Mr. Fern. And Fern's statement to that effect is ludicrous and foolish, says Master. So it is not something which is true, but both perhaps Mr. Sinnett and Mr. Hume believe the words of Mr. Fern, and Master M has been humbugged or deceived is what he said. And that statement of Mr. Fern is ludicrous or foolish, says Master K.H. Master K.H. says further, HPB never knew that Mr. Fern was kept in probation, but he did inquire what all things one has to do to be while in probation or to be under probation. But HPB never knew when that period started of Fern being under probation. Neither Mr. Alcott knew anything about this, that Fern was under probation. They were trying to find out whether this man would fit in to be a person who would perhaps transmit letters and transmit messages, etc. And he was being tested and trained by Master M. Fern being under probation, Master K.H. says, Master M has taken a lot of pains and efforts. And few days back, he did explain to you, Mr. Hume, that means Master M has explained to Mr. Hume that Mr. Fern was not taken in or accepted as Chela. So these people are in the impression that Mr. Fern has become the Chela, but Master M had explained to Mr. Hume that Fern was not accepted as Chela. In fact, he has failed in the test of probation. So Master confirms he was on probation only, and since he did not pass the test for probation, he was not taken in as a Chela. Both Hume and Sinnett perhaps felt that Fern has become, or Fern has been made a Chela, and Master M in fact laughed at that idea expressed by both Mr. Hume and Mr. Sennett. Mr. Alcott can provide ample proof to the effect that Mr. Fern was not accepted as Chela, but Henry Steele Alcott was in a very interior part of Ceylon, where perhaps letters won't reach, where even cables would not reach him. So if that was possible, perhaps Mr. Alcott, Colonel Alcott, could have perhaps given ample proofs to the fact that Mr. Fern was not accepted as Chela. Master K.H. further says, it is not a fraud as you people understand or describe it. Why call it a fraud? Asks the master. We are not interested in it. We are not interested in fraud. That's what Master K.H. says. Mr. Fern asked Madam HPB earnestly for her advice. She told him, HPB said this, quote, work for the cause, that is perhaps cause of theosophy and theosophical society, obtain each and every evidence to prove for yourself and to the others the existence of the elder brothers, meaning the masters. So HPB says, gather all evidence of the existence of the masters, gather all the evidence of the existence of the masters or the presence of the masters for yourself, that is Fern himself, and for people like Hume, etc. So Master K.H. is inquiring, do you see anything wrong in this? We have done this, and Madam HPB also has advised what he should be doing. And do you see anything wrong in this? Is the inquiry made by Master K.H. to Mr. Hume. Master K.H. says, Mr. Fern gave a manuscript of his vision to Madam Blavatsky. And when Madam Blavatsky referred that to Master M seemed to have opined whether Fern will publish this vision, print this vision. Because in that particular vision, Mr. Fern has called Master M as the mighty one or as the father, etc., etc. So Master M was asking whether Mr. Fern would publish this document, which he says is his vision. So even before HPB or Alcott could answer the question raised by Master M, Master M told them that Fern will not publish it. He told before Madam Blavatsky or Mr. Alcott could answer whether he would publish or not, whether Fern will publish the vision or not. Master M himself says that Mr. Fern will not publish it because he doesn't really believe in what he has written. He doesn't really give wholehearted attention to what he has written. So now Master K.H. is saying only Master M knows his vision and other visions. And Master M alone knows, nobody else knows. Master K.H. says he will never, that means Master K.H. will never interfere with the methods of training adopted by Master M while training Mr. Fern. Master K.H. says he will never interfere with the methods of training which Master M would do or would take up to train Mr. Fern. Even though the methods may not suit the taste of Master K.H., he would not talk about them. That's what Master K.H. says. Maybe the methods adopted by him are entirely different. Distasteful is the word used in the letter. And he would not comment on it. He would not interfere in it, is what Master K.H. is saying. Master K.H. says, old lady, meaning Blavatsky, Madam Blavatsky, also will not know anything about this, of such training and tests which Mr. Fern has undergone. After Blavatsky visited Baroda, she had gone to Baroda and she came to know few things about Mr. Fern. After Madam Blavatsky visited Baroda, she came to know few things about Mr. Fern. And that she learned all about Mr. Fern from others especially from Mr. Brooks. Madam Blavatsky knew a lot of things, a lot of material she gathered about Mr. Fern from others, especially from Mr. Brooks, who is a fellow companion of Mr. Fern. The word used is Mejnor, perhaps a Latin word, saying or perhaps describing the companion of Mr. Fern. Her opinion of Mr. Fern is worse than what AOH or Senate thinks of Mr. Fern. So this is what Master KH had to say to Mr. Hume. HPB, it is said, Madam Blavatsky, it is said by Master KH, that she is an upasika, that she is a female disciple of theirs. And HPB, other than occult matters, will not hold back her tongue, means she will pronounce what she believes to be true. So only on occult matters, perhaps she will not open up, but on other matters, she will say what is true according to her. So she had opined what exactly Mr. Fern is all about, having visited Baroda. And this would affect nobody else other than Mr. Fern. Whatever the statements made or observations made by Madam Blavatsky and conveyed will only affect Mr. Fern and no one else. Master KH talks about the Theosophical Convention or gathering of intellectuals planned by Mr. Sinnett and Hume. If Mr. Hume will continue to be a member of the Theosophical Society, why that doubt? Because after receiving this letter, perhaps Master KH was feeling that he would disassociate himself from the Theosophical Society. So Master says, if Mr. Hume will continue to be a member of the Theosophical Society, then the conference or the gathering of the intellectuals should be organized at his home, that is Hume's home. This is what Master KH is talking to Mr. Hume. And then further, Master KH says, now he says, he will say few parting words in conclusion. Master KH is saying, he will say few parting words in conclusion. In all other things, other than one defect, what is the defect of haughtiness and pride, etc., which he talked about? The rest of the good qualities are there, he told him sometime back in the earlier portions of the letter. So in all other things, except one defect of haughtiness and pride, Master KH says that he has great, sincere respect and regards for him, that is Mr. Hume. Don't take my words, whatever words I have conveyed to you or I have written about to you, don't resent them, don't take them as reproaches. The advices are meant for understanding and correcting. Don't take them as a sign of disapproval or expressing my displeasure. This is what Master KH is telling Mr. Hume. Master KH acknowledges that Hume has been working unselfishly for the good of humanity. Sometimes, Master says, he has argued with Mr. Hume in the letters and earlier too, because the suggestions given by him, the suggestions given by Mr. Hume were considered some words not suitable, not proper by Chauhan, perhaps here referring to Mahachohan. And he felt, Chauhan felt, that suggestions are not worthy of consideration. According to Chauhan, the words conveyed, as suggestions conveyed by Mr. Hume were not worthy of consideration. This is what Master KH had to tell Mr. Hume. For the present, you, meaning Hume, may consider these arguments as statements of disapproval. You may think they're statements of disapproval because we have not accepted them. You, meaning Hume, will realize that you were seeking for unreasonable favors and concessions. Yes, they were wanting to be accepted as chelas, both of them. They wanted letters to be received directly by them. These are all the things which they wanted things to be sanctioned by the masters. So he says, master says, your statements, your arguments of disapproval, you will realize, Hume will realize that you are seeking unreasonable favors and concessions from us. Whatever requested was rejected. Whatever requested was rejected. So Hume may feel that he has not been favored and in fact has been wronged. That's the feeling AOH might get. This is what Master KH is telling Mr. Hume. Because we have not accepted your arguments, because you have not accepted your suggestions, because you are seeking most unreasonable favors and concessions, we have rejected all those considerations or suggestions made. You may feel that you are not favored and wronged. Though not explicitly expressed by you, though you may not have written that you have not felt bad about it, or you have been wronged, or you have not been favored, you may not have spelt it out, but your inner thoughts were detected by Mahachohan. This is what Master KH says. Of course, masters also know Chohan perhaps learnt about it and wanted that this person should be properly guided, or in fact be chided by Master KH. Master KH says, whatever you, Hume, so far has received, or so far you have received, meaning Hume, you may regard that portion of it as incomplete or inconsistent. The philosophy which has been given to you, you may feel is incomplete and inconsistent. You may not give value to it. In fact, you may undervalue it, says the master. Whatever Evo Hume has received, that's what master refers to as philosophy, is given based on eligibility of Mr. Hume. The doctrine has been given based on his eligibility, how much he can know or he should know. And master, in fact, has asked for the whole list of inconsistencies which Mr. Hume thinks that inconsistencies are present. Master KH, in fact, has asked for the whole list of inconsistencies that masters are accused of. Then, after that, master says, he'll be able to prove, after receiving that, the list of inconsistencies as per Mr. Hume, master says he'll be able to prove that no one who knows the doctrine, or anyone for that matter who knows the whole or entire doctrine, would say it is incomplete. Master says he'll be able to prove that no one who knows the doctrine, or anyone for that matter who knows the whole or entire doctrine, would say that it is incomplete. A person who is full of contradictions cannot accuse masters of inconsistency. So he was giving an example of Mr. Fern, who would say something on Monday, who would change that opinion on Wednesday, say something else on Saturday. So he was someone who was inconsistent, and he was perhaps trying to say that there are a lot of contradictions and inconsistencies in the theory which they have passed on. Master says, Madame Blavatsky, with her ridiculously impaired or the memory which is suffering, will not be so inconsistent as the other person has been. And such inconsistency has been exhibited by Mr. Fern. So HPB herself is suffering from lack of memory, inconsistency of memory. Still should be able to say things cogently, but that is not something which has been exhibited by Mr. Fern, says the master. A.V. Hume has written to Master KH, obviously, saying he cannot work merely with second-class minds. This is perhaps a rude statement from Mr. Hume. AOH says, to Mr. KH that he would or he cannot work merely with second-class minds, and Hume wants the whole of the doctrine in full, which will be scrutinized and validated by persons like Herbert Spencer. This is what he wanted. To this, Master KH replies, with such an attitude, Hume is sinning against the multitudes of humanity. Only if Hume had patience, he would have got all that he wanted, perhaps all that he deserved, not what he liked, but what he deserved, and would have got out of the speculative philosophy, a philosophy which is called speculative because a philosophy that would have remained as speculative and as such not complete, not the whole philosophy. Only adepts knew it completely, fully, comprehensively, but other people speculate. This particular term is used in masonry also, a speculative masonry as against the operational masonry. So a speculative, one can speculate, interpret, understand when one is having a mind full of love and compassion. One can speculate, interpret, understand when one is having a mind full of love and compassion. One understands better when one is possessing an altruistic mind. Adepts have that loving nature, an altruistic nature, and love for the welfare of humanity. For such exalted minds, for such learned minds, philosophy they profess and the philosophy of which they live for is real, is comprehensive. Others try to understand by speculating, use their limited speculative power of their mind, always debating whether it means this or means that. So this is what normal people like us would speculate. But masters don't need that. They are completely full of the information which they need to have, and they're full of love and compassion. They're able to understand the entire philosophy comprehensively. The more one deserves, by walking on the path with adepts or on the path of the adepts, more one will understand the real message of their philosophy and their thought. With a selfish mind, one cannot understand, even if all the contents are laid before one. With a selfish mind, one cannot understand, even if all the contents are laid before one to understand. So the entire information is there. If I don't have the real preparation for it to understand it, I don't have the mind to understand it, I don't have the love and compassion to understand it, maybe I'll not be able to understand that. That's what perhaps exactly what Master KH is suggesting. To understand and to live, one needs a holistic mind full of love and compassion. Master says, none who are formally educated, or considered intellectuals can understand the doctrine which they profess. It is not head learning. Perhaps this is what he's suggesting. It is not head learning. Master is suggesting it is not head learning which matters. It is the soul wisdom which matters and which transports one to higher realms. Head learners, intellectuals, are actually those who are possessing the second-class minds. We don't need validation from such people. He has mentioned a lot of names, John Stuart Mill and so many other names. So we don't need a validation from such people, says Master KH. Master says to Hume, you are not endowed with the quality of patience, with the virtue of patience. Master says this to Hume. Perhaps it is also a suggestion to all of us. Master says to Hume, you are not endowed with patience. That virtue one needs to develop. Because you lack in those virtues, Master KH says, you need not get unduly disheartened and perturbed. As things stand today, in the present situation, yes, you may feel disheartened, but elsewhere he has said, use that word, 3 letters, T-R-Y, try. Is the master suggesting try and acquire from within those qualities of virtues. Master KH tells Mr. Hume, whatever friendly truths he has talked about, he has heard from them, from masters. You are perhaps not resenting. This is what he is hoping. Master is hoping that you are not resenting, I suppose, whatever truths which you have shared with you, whatever considered truths, friendly truths which you have shared with you. Don't consider them as bitter truths. If your conscience, that is Hume's conscience, whispers that you are unreasonably impatient, if Hume's conscience, the inner conscience, whispers that you are unreasonably impatient at times and not at all showing patience, forbearance, which you ought to, would like to. So you should not resent what we have said when we say you are impatient. It's as if your inner voice is saying that you're impatient. We are saying the same truth, friendly truth. So don't be upset with that. One has to learn to be patient and wait for the inspiring moment to understand what patience means, what other virtues mean. Master KH says that the continuous work for the cause of TS, which Hume has undertaken, has been doing in various directions and various projects. We are all aware of your work. Because we have not talked about that work in the letters which you have written, it doesn't mean that we are ungrateful and purposefully ignoring your work. Don't think like that, is what Master KH is saying. We do recognize your work. We may not be acknowledging or writing in our letters about your work, which you are doing. So whatever we do, whatever we think, yes, if we are thinking about masters, if we are closer, our conscience is closer, consciousness is closer to the masters, perhaps they will understand what exactly is going through us. So Master KH says, a person should not expect thanks for performing one's duty. Master KH is saying, a person should not expect thanks for performing one's duty. That duty is duty due to humanity and working for the cause of truth. And Master says, since after all, he who labors for others labors but for himself. This is a quotation from the letter as such. Since after all, he who labors for others labors but for himself. And Master KH says, again quote, I feel deeply grateful to you for what you have done. The quote ends. Master says, he is not by nature one to demonstrate his love and appreciation. By nature, KH says, I am not someone who expresses or demonstrates his love or appreciation. But one day, Master says that Hume would realize that he is not an ungrateful person. That means Master KH is not ungrateful. Ingrate is the word used in the letter. And Master KH says, after all, you will realize one day that masters have not been ungrateful. Master says the flaws and inconsistencies in their letters, whether they are real or apparently real or appearing as flaws on surface, only time will answer. Maybe further explanation too will answer. Master says the flaws and inconsistencies which he is talking about in the letters, Master's letters, whether they're real or apparently appearing as flaws on surface, only time will answer. Maybe the further explanations will answer too, says Master KH. Master says to Evo Hume that you have complained to Senate and to Mr. Fern that you have not been taken in or accepted as Chela. And he says, just think for yourself, says the Master, how odd it would look for a native person to have a look at us, a native guru and an European Chela. Master KH requests Mr. Hume to understand him And when you are addressing me as master in your letters, the rest of the chutkus, meaning adepts, are laughing at me. I'm becoming a laughing stock, says the master, as they do not know our mutual relationship. Master says there are two letters, one written by Mr. Subbarao and one written by Madam Blavatsky, which master has enclosed along with this letter. And he wants Hume to study those letters and note the contents, what they say. Both Mr. Subbarao and Madam Blavatsky are disciples, accepted disciples of Chelas. Subbarao's letter is full of excuses, and Master HPB's letter is full of sincere truths, says Master KH. Both Subbarao's letter and HPB's letter, Mr. Subbarao's letter is full of excuses, whereas HPB's letter is full of sincere truths. So to report a fact that I've been not meditating, it should be sincere. You should not write something which is not true. So perhaps he's giving an excuse saying why he is not able to meditate. I'm just guessing. This is not there in the book. So this is what perhaps we have to understand and how to relate it to our lives. Since both are disciples, I'm sharing their letters for your reference. It is not done thing in the Western sense. That is, the act of sharing one's letters written by someone else without their permission to share their letters is not the done thing in the Western sense, but it is considered as an act of indiscretion, says the master, by the Western people. But don't think that it is an act of discretion, but is an act to show how those letters convey what they have to convey to you. Master says these letters of Subbarao and Madam Blavatsky are shared in strict confidence and to use them as a guide by way of personal instructions and return those letters to me, says the master. There is a lot of undoing before you can hope to do good for the country of India. Like we have to learn what all we have learned should be unlearned. Similarly, what all cruelties the English people have heaped on Indians have to be understood, and you have to do the compensation, at least in the heart. Think of them with a lot of love and respect. Only then, if this is done with English people, if the undoing is done by the English people, they can do something good for the country, which is India. Saying all these above statements and sentences, Master KH closes the letter with his sincere regards and respect to Mr. Hume. As postscriptum, Master KH writes that Evo Hume has been perhaps too severe and unjust towards Mr. Fern. So this is something which he has written in postscriptum. So if you have to, do you have time, another 2 minutes or 3 minutes, madam?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to put some ideas which we have covered in these letters. I've not written everything, but something which just came into my memory. If you have to live in harmony, live like the masters, live in harmony, sharing the work and time with others. Then the second thought, to evolve spiritually, one has to give up selfishness. To evolve spiritually, one has to give up selfishness. Third, exercising restraint through self-imposed methods. Practicing restraint is not the right way, but this desire to be good, virtuous, should happen spontaneously. This is what the master said, not made up through force. This is what master said. So exercising restraint and behaving good is not what one is supposed to do. Madam Radhabani used to say, Theosophical member is not supposed to look good, but he has to be good. So this is something which has to happen spontaneously from inside. Madam Blavatsky says, abstaining from immoral living somehow is not the solution. Somehow staying away from abstaining from immoral living is not the solution. The inward cravings must be stopped, must be removed from one's heart. This work has to be done continuously, assiduously, says the master. Not able to bear an insult, this is another truth. Not able to bear an insult a personal injustice, it affects one's thoughts and purpose of living. Not able to bear an insult or personal injustice, it affects one's thoughts and purpose of living. Stored feelings affect the power of reasoning. Stored feelings affect the powers of the reasoning of the mind. So, learn to forgive is the next statement made by the master. Learn to forgive. Don't hold on. Don't hold somebody as people who have done wrong to you. Forgive. Then remove haughtiness, pride, conceit. It is we that we have to lift our consciousness to their world. Come unto our world, says the masters, and they will not descend to our world. This is something again very, very interesting. And what is duty? Duty is what is due to humanity. So with this, I conclude the presentation of this letter number 30, which I had taken 3 sessions because the third session was something which I accepted because the second session, at the end of the second session, it was not complete. So I had to take this third one. So thank you for all the patient hearing you gave me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, very much for your most insightful explanation of this letter, especially the last part where you have summarized the things which we can learn and imbibe from this letter. I will now request Brother Sanat Vyas to give us the translation in Hindi. Please unmute yourself. Sanat Kumarji, please unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes.
सभी को नमस्कार। मास्टर लिखते हैं, उपासिका में से कोई भी न HP, न ऑलकाट, न दामोदर, न ही उनमें से किसी पर भी आरोप लगाया जा सकता है। उसके पास यानी फर्म के पास मौजूद हर पत्र वे दिखा सकता है जिसकी उसे पेशकश की गई थी। यानी कि 2 मार्ग चुनने का विकल्प उनके पास छोड़ा था उस पत्र में, और उसने असल में क्या किया है, विकल्प उन पर छोड़ दिया था। असल में उन्होंने क्या किया या नहीं किया है, इसका वो ऐलान कर सकते थे। अगर कभी उसके दुर्भाग्य से जब समय आएगा, तब वह कितना सच है और कितना गलत, और उसके द्वारा मनगढ़ंत है या दिखाने के लिए हमारे पास साधन है, तब तक मेरी आपसे एक गुजारिश है कि चौकस रहें और कुछ न कहें। वह सभी प्रकार के गलत कृत्यों को करने में प्रलोभित किया गया था, है या किया जाएगा। जिन लोगों को मुझे चेतावनी देनी थी, उन्हें मैंने चेतावनी दी। वह उत्तम अतीन्द्रिय दृष्टि वाला है और वह उतना भी बुरा नहीं है जितना आप उसे समझते हैं। वह अभिमानी है, लेकिन ऐसा कौन नहीं है? हम में से पूर्णतः इस दोष से कौन मुक्त है? आप कहते हैं कि झांसे में आए, एम झांसे में आए और मिस्टर फर्म ने उन्हें अपने जाल में फंसाया। यह बहुत ही हास्यास्पद है। फर्म के विजन के बारे में मौर्य जो जानते हैं, वह केवल उन्हीं को पता है, और उनके प्रशिक्षण के उनके तरीके चाहे अजीब लगे, मैं कभी भी उसमें हस्तक्षेप नहीं करूंगा। भव्य रूप से थियोसॉफिकल सम्मेलन होने के अनुमान के बारे में मैंने सुना है, और यदि उस समय तक आप एक थियोसॉफिस्ट रहते हैं, तब निश्चित ही बेहतर होगा कि यह आपके घर में हो। मेरा विश्वास करें मेरे प्रिय बंधु, आपके एकमात्र दोष को जानने के बावजूद, जिसे आपने स्वयं मुझे पत्र में स्वीकारा है, मैं चाहता हूं कि आप मुझ पर विश्वास करें जब मैं कहता हूं कि आपकी सभी बातों या कार्यों के लिए आदर सम्मान बहुत नेक है। मैं खुद भी हो, मैं यह नहीं भूल सकता कि पिछले कई महीनों में आपके लिए किसी भी पुरस्कार कई महीनों में अपने लिए किसी भी पुरस्कार या लाभ की उम्मीद या मांग किए बिना सोसाइटी और मानवता की भलाई के लिए दिन प्रतिदिन कार्य किया, कड़ी मेहनत की। गुड ब्रदर, मैं आपसे प्रार्थना करता हूं कि मेरी किसी भी साधारण टिप्पणी को निंदा के रूप में न माने। यदि मैंने आपसे बहस की है तो ऐसा इसलिए किया गया है क्योंकि महाचौहान ने आपके सुझावों को असामान्य माना है और इसीलिए मुझे ऐसा करना पड़ा। यद्यपि अब आप अपने विरुद्ध की गई चर्चा को निंदा के लायक नहीं मानते हैं, फिर भी किसी दिन आप जानेंगे कि आप वास्तव में अनुचित सुविधा छूट चाह रहे थे, वांटिंग अनरीजनेबल कंसेशंस। तथ्य यह है कि यदि संभव हो तो किसी और को नहीं बल्कि आपको सिद्धियां प्राप्त करने की अनुमति दी जानी चाहिए। ऐसा आपका आग्रहपूर्ण प्रस्ताव था जिसका उपयोग दूसरों को यकीन दिलाने में किया जाए। मेरे पास आप सभी के पत्र हैं और शायद ही उनमें से कोई पत्र होगा जो करारा दावा नहीं करता, लायक होने का अनुरोध नहीं करता, यानी जो देय है यथोचित है, उसकी मांग और उसे नकारा जाने पर आप अन्याय होने का अधिकार देती हैं। ऐसा लिखने में आपका कोई इरादा है ऐसा मुझे संदेह नहीं था, लेकिन ऐसे आपके गोपनीय विचार थे और उस अंतरतम की भावनाओं को चौहान ने हमेशा पहचाना, जिनका नाम आपने कई बार लिया है और जिसे उन्होंने नोट भी किया। आपको अभी तक जो कुछ भी मिला उसे आप असंगत और अपूर्ण मानकर उसे कम आंकते हैं। आपकी राय में सिर्फ दोयम दर्जे के दिमाग वालों के लिए काम करना उपयुक्त या लाभप्रद नहीं है। ऐसे विचार के तहत आप यह प्रस्ताव रखते हैं, सब कुछ पाना या उस काम से यदि आप तत्काल बाहर न निकलने पर उसे पूरी तरह से छोड़ देना। यदि आपके पास धीरज होता तो आपको वह सब कुछ प्राप्त होता जो हमारे स्पेक्युलेटिव फिलॉसफी में है, माने कि निश्चित ही सिद्ध पुरुषों को छोड़कर इसे ऐसा ही रहना होगा। लेकिन सचमुच मेरे प्रिय बंधु, आप में हर गुण पर्याप्त मात्रा में नहीं है, चाहे जो भी हो। मुझे आशा है कि आप हमारे द्वारा सुनी गई मैत्रीपूर्ण सच्चाइयों पर नाराज नहीं होंगे। क्या आप अपनी अंतरात्मा की आवाज पर नाराज होंगे जो आपसे होले से कहती है कि आप कभी कभी अकारण अधीर होते हैं और जितना कि आपको होना चाहिए उतना आप बिल्कुल भी सहनशील नहीं है। यह सच है कि आप ध्येय के लिए बिना किसी चाहत के कई दिशाओं में कई महीनों से काम कर रहे हैं, लेकिन आपने यह नहीं सोचना चाहिए कि चूंकि हमने कभी भी आपके द्वारा किए गए कार्यों का ज्ञान नहीं दर्शाया और न ही हमने कभी भी अपने पत्रों द्वारा इसकी स्वीकृति या धन्यवाद नहीं दिया, इसलिए हम कृतज्ञ नहीं है या जानबूझकर आपने जो दिया है उसे अनदेखा कर रहे हैं, ऐसा नहीं है। हालांकि किसी को भी मानवता और सत्य के प्रति अपने कर्तव्य निभाने के लिए धन्यवाद की उम्मीद नहीं करना चाहिए, क्योंकि आखिरकार वह जो दूसरों के लिए परिश्रम करता है वास्तव में वह स्वयं के लिए ही परिश्रम कर रहा होता है। फिर भी मेरे बंधु, आपने जो कुछ किया है उसके लिए मैं आपका बहुत आभारी हूं। मैं स्वभाव से बहुत प्रदर्शनकारी नहीं हूं, लेकिन आशा करता हूं कि किसी दिन मैं आपको साबित कर सकूंगा कि जैसा आप सोचते हैं वैसा कृतज्ञ मैं नहीं हूं। थैंक यू।
Thank you, Brother Sanajji, for this translation. Thank you. Now, if anybody would like to discuss something or they have any questions, you may please unmute yourself and speak. Anybody would like to share their experience or any teaching which is given in this letter? This was one of the very long letters and has been very well explained. Brother Krishna ji, would you like to add some words to the end? Sir?
I got it. Yes. If this letter is understood properly, we know what exactly how Chela will be accepted by the masters. It is not there. They can't, if you are prepared, if you have been working assiduously, working very conscientiously to be unselfish and working for the welfare of humanity, etc., they will have to accept. There is no question of sending them away. Merely wishing to be their chelas is not enough. That is one thing. So a lot of people draw the name of the masters just like that. Drop the hat. They would like to say, this is master's work. This is master has told me this. Master has told me to work as federation president and things like that. So all these things are not quite there. You know, one has to be very, very simple, unselfish, and try to follow the path. They work for the welfare of humanity. And if you are working at least for the people who are around you, if you are able to take care of their needs, their requirements, or not physical needs, maybe the needs which perhaps what you can do by appreciating a genuine thing or by telling them what they can do better or what, do it all that without any sort of, so that you don't cause any pain to them, be very nice to them. So this would perhaps help in the work of the masters. This is what we are supposed to do. And so many quotations or so many places where masters actually told Hume, perhaps it also refers to us. This is what the letters actually convey. They may be addressed to Senate, they may be addressed to Mr. Hume, but we have to search within ourselves whether these qualities which masters are talking about, say for example, conceit, it is there in us, or are we someone who are affected by prejudice? All these things we have to consider very carefully. And maybe the best route could be when we retire to bed and self-introspection, which we do for about 20-25 minutes every day. There perhaps you can eliminate things which are not required to be eliminated and accumulate things which need to be accumulated as per Madam Blavatsky's diagram of meditation, deprivations and acquisitions. This is something which we have to do regularly, conscientiously and assiduously. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, sir. That's very true. This requires an inner transformation rather than just outward appearance. So thank you so much for that explanation, and thank you to all our participants. Now, if we don't have any further points of discussion, so we'll close the session with the closing prayer. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Sarvesham Swastirabhavatu Sarvesham Shantirabhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah सर्वे सन्तु निरामया सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति. Thank you all for joining. Namaste.